Hello everyone. It is time yet again for my yearly thoughts on Destiny going into the next year video. We're in 2024 now, in case you're not keeping track of the time. I did not do a video last year because there was a state of the game post that dropped around the same time that I normally make this video, but I don't know how much I would have really added to that conversation after the state of the game post anyway. Normally, in these videos, I talk about what I want to see going into the future, what are some big problems the game is experiencing, what needs improvement, etc., etc. And sure, I'll hit some points that sound familiar, loot chase, PvP, but this year is a bit different because we are headed into the sort of unknown. We're headed into the finale. I don't know what to really discuss as Final Shape and this transition into episodes are going to be defining moments for the franchise. We still don't know that much about episodes other than the fact that you will not need to experience them in order to know what's going on in the story. I'm assuming we'll be seeing and dealing with the world post-Final Shape and seeing different perspectives and stuff like that. We'll be getting a lot of similar things that we get in seasons, new items, new activities. But with what we know coming to an end, and with something new on the horizon, it's a little tougher to do this video compared to previous years. You know, it's also tough watching a YouTuber's in-video ad read in its entirety. Hi, I'm Datto, 2024 edition, now with 2.x digital zoom, and this video is brought to you by Manscaped. The new year is a time for new goals, and instead of unrealistic ones like working out or eating healthy or going to therapy, why not have one of those goals actually be achievable? Let's say not looking like a human hairball who hasn't left the house for 3 weeks. Unlike going to the gym, the Performance Package 5.0 Ultra from Manscaped is here to make that one an easy reality. The Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra's got dual skin-safe blades with longer, wider, and rounder teeth to slice through hair like I'm slicing the watch time on this video because of this ad read. And you have the foil trimmer to get yourself an extra smooth shave. On top of the Weed Whacker 2.0 and all of the included accessories, how about some free bonus gifts, like the Boxers 2.0, which have unironically become my favorite pair of boxers that I own, and I have 2 of them now, or the Shed 2.0 travel bag, which you're gonna need because you're gonna be going on so many dates because you're not gonna resemble that of a moldy piece of bread anymore. So if you want an easy New Year's resolution, try 1440p. And then go to manscaped.com and use code Datto to get 20% off and free international shipping and the 2 free gifts. That's manscaped.com using code Datto to get 20% off, free shipping, and 2 free gifts. Thank you very much to Manscaped for sponsoring this video. How did 2023 go? Besides the Lightfall story and maybe some bits of Season 20, I thought it was fine in terms of the content we got as far as Destiny seasons go. Always that qualifier, as far as Destiny seasons go. It's only been until recently that Bungie has gotten to even address the main feedback from last year, which was seasons are getting too predictable and not very engaging. So far, Season of the Wish is still mostly following the same story beats as previous seasons. Introduce core character for the season, introduce a situation with no clear outcome or some situation that will cause tension. Will they betray us? Will this thing work out? Slowly reveal the plot over time while collecting various MacGuffins from seasonal activities week over week. Get a black and white drawn cutscene, which to be fair have always been dope, and hit the finale where everything probably works out. I don't really log in to play the seasonal activity for the week so much as I log in to progress the story and hear dialogue and watch characters interact. I have enjoyed Season of the Wish, but we also already knew how it was going to end since August 2023. We're going into the Traveler. I will say that 2023 has had some of the best seasonal activities we've ever had. It's just that as soon as you get all the crafted weapon patterns, there's basically no reason to run them ever again. Deep dives walked in Season 21 so that the coil in Season 23 could run, the coil being easily a top 3 seasonal activity ever, with arguments for it being the best. I would love to see a coil-like activity in the game on a permanent basis going forward, including all of the loot, although loot is a factor we'll discuss. Seasons this year in general have arguably been some of the strongest we've gotten in this format, but that doesn't mean a lot when people are fatigued on that format and the game as a whole. We've reached the limit with this format. While things have been consistent since basically season 13, I would say, that consistency is leading to fatigue. After I got my title and crafted weapons, I pieced out in each season over the past probably about 2 years for the most part. Granted, I'm someone who has done almost everything the game has to offer, so maybe I'm not the best barometer, but it hasn't been just me who has been fatigued with the game, and I think if you've been playing for as long as I have, you are probably fatigued as well, especially if you haven't taken any breaks. What are some of the bigger issues with the game itself right now? I would say loot acquisition is one for me and probably more veteran players, maybe not so much casuals. We've reached the pinnacle of how strong I think weapons can really get without being blatantly power crept with new perks. The only reason the coil is going to stay relevant is because of all the exotic crafting materials, which I'm not saying is a bad thing because pretty much all other seasonal activities have no loot incentive after you get all of your patterns. Crafted weapons are both a blessing and a curse on the game, depending on your viewpoint. I really only care about loot if it's the top of the top, and even then, I can just get the weapon pattern for most things, and I can buy my weapons levels just to get the enhanced god roll immediately. The amount of work I actually need to put in has been dramatically reduced in just being able to buy stuff, although if that work is just mindlessly grinding away at Shirochi or Grasp of Avarice, I think a lot of people would argue that it's okay to get rid of that work. And at the end of the day, having the top of the top end loot hardly matters to begin with. As long as what you have is half decent, you're going to be fine in 99% of content. Armor, on the other hand, has been at its power limit ever since Artifice Armor was introduced. I have not needed to care about building new armor sets for a very long time, making half the loot in the game completely irrelevant to me. I did a couple of days of farming last year, and that set me up for life. But besides just increasing the stats even more and power creeping, what can you reasonably do? Maybe some set bonus stuff to incentivize using different armor sets for different activities or different builds, but how many people even want that or desire it? How many people want to keep track of several sets of armor when we already need to worry about build crafting and maintaining those sets of armor? Bungie has already kind of done set bonuses on armor, but it's never really been enticing enough to care about. Even raid armor has this issue with raid mods. They're nice, but most of the time not game changers and therefore not important. So if your loot hunt is in trouble, then a lot of people are just not going to engage because the chase isn't there, on top of the seasonal model getting stale, even if what is in the season overall isn't too bad. But isn't too bad doesn't really drive engagement. There's also the price of engram focusing, a lot of complaints about that right now, but that is something that is fixable with a number swap and adjustment. That is not a systemic issue that will take months or years to come up with a solution to, at least theoretically it's not. That's not the kind of stuff that I'm really trying to talk about. And it was at this point in the script where I stopped, and I did not come back to it for about 2 weeks because I truly don't know what to say anymore about the future of the franchise. And I apologize if this next chunk of the video sounds familiar. How do you fix fatigue? How do you get people reinvigorated into a franchise that's running on 10 years now, that hasn't shown major signs of changing up their DLC model in 3 years? How do you get people excited to play this game again? It's not like the gameplay is horrific. It's probably the best it's ever been with builds and exotics and all this stuff and how strong we are. The one true constant in this game has always been that shooting stuff and watching it explode is fun. I think what Bungie has been doing this past year with seasonal content has been a good start, bringing in elements of other genres like roguelikes and start to introduce some slightly newer concepts to the game. I'm not going to say it's revolutionary to introduce some stacking buffs that you can buy in an activity, especially how it's done in seasonal content, but at least it's showing a little bit of spirit. Despite tons of improvements to the game over the past couple of years, it's not stuff that gets people super stoked to play. They've made the game better for people who are actively playing it, which has some merit. Bungie is focusing on the people who actively play. I think the ability to fight against champions with subclass effects was one of the best things Bungie has done in recent memory for gameplay. But that doesn't get people excited to play the game in the same way that new content does. And it also doesn't drive new players to the game either. A lot of things have been quality of life things for people actively playing, but not something that reinvigorates a community. Even Fireteam Finder, despite it being a major achievement, is still more of a quality of life update than some huge feature that people are going to come back to the game for or join the game for. It has not moved the needle. How do you get new people to a game that's been out for 10 years that hasn't done a whole hell of a lot to encourage new players to join up outside of the occasional sale on expansions? Obviously, if you can restore the DCV content to the game to let people play it all the way through, and if you straighten out buying the expansions, that could lead to new player retention. But one of those things, the DCV, doesn't seem to be happening anytime remotely soon for whatever the reasons might be. So that's a no on injecting new life into this game in the next year or so, because who is going to hop in at the end of the story when you can't even play a large chunk of it? A Destiny 3 concept is constantly proposed, and I've said many times that I don't think it'll happen, but it gets more and more compelling as time goes on, just to open the window of opportunity to a potential new player base. And most importantly, how, as a player, do you trust Bungie to be able to build back that confidence when all we've heard for years now, especially recently with the layoffs that they had, is that leadership isn't doing what needs to be done to get this game to a better place, where your employees aren't able to do what they think they need to do to bring this thing back to life? You thought you had retention problems before, wait until Final Shape hits. What do I want to see? I would like to see the end of the seasonal content pattern we've gotten to know for the past several years. Like I mentioned earlier, when it comes to story stuff, I log in to listen to characters interact and tell stories and progress plot points. I could not care less about running the seasonal activity again. I'd rather just log in, listen to people talk for a few minutes, and move on. I would rather have fewer, more curated things to engage with, stuff that's going to get me really stoked to run it, versus logging in for 5 minutes of dialogue and a couple of red borders. I would rather have something every other week that really surprised me, or fewer, bigger set pieces, versus hopping on for another run of seasonal activity number 20 every single week. It's not really going to solve loot problems, which is one of the bigger PvE issues, but at least I'll be entertained while I'm playing a new thing. I know I don't really speak about PvP that much on this channel because y'all ain't here for that, but I can't recall the last time I've seen the PvP population happy for longer than like a week. So that's another issue too. I think one of my biggest issues is that I've beaten the game. I've done all the things the game has to offer, and I've been at this state for a very long time. You gotta really like something to accomplish everything there is to do in a game and still want to play actively. Steam says I have 4,800 hours in this game as of it moving to Steam from Battle.net, plus thousands of hours more of making content for the game. I know that if there's someone who needs a break from the game, it's me. I got all the titles, I got all the weapons, I've beaten all the things, I make a mockery of the things that I've beaten, I run circles around them. I might not have done it recently, but I've soloed a raid boss or two. I've done duo raid boss content before. And I think my issue is that the Destiny spell on me is kind of breaking. I feel like my time on Destiny lately has been more forced than it's been genuine desire. And I think I'm just still kind of coping with that. You know, 10 years is a long time to be doing something like playing Destiny. But I have been taking more and more time away from the game, and that does make logging in when I do actually want to play feel more fun. Having that space away from the game makes burnout hit way less hard versus forcing myself to log on when I didn't want to. I plan on spending 2024 on a personal project that I've been planning on working on for the past little while now. I plan on potentially figuring out a new YouTube identity as I prepare for the worst and hope for the best, as if Destiny interest wanes enough after Final Shape, I need to have something else to fall back on, else I disappear from YouTube. I still plan to continue to do Destiny coverage on this channel, but given that we have another 5 months of Season of the Wish, I don't plan on forcing out Destiny content in the way I used to force it out if I don't have anything to discuss or if I don't come up with something creative to entertain you with. I know that we'll be getting more stuff during this gap, including towards the end of the season. When new things come out that I want to discuss, there's going to be a video. When Final Shape releases, I'll be back full throttle. But if I don't have something to discuss, I don't plan on driving myself insane trying to figure out the next piece of Destiny content just to show people that I'm still alive. Because I've had to do that a lot over the years, and I'm tired. I know it works. I know what content works. I know it's going to be a waste of time. I'm going to do my best, but eventually I run out of stuff to guide people on, and the bulk of my viewership here, the things that do well, are still guides, there's still reviews, there's still commentary on the game. As for my sabbatical, in case you're not up to date on Datto lore, I was supposed to take a sabbatical this year. It is now a complete unknown, and I no longer plan on taking one at the time that I was originally planning, which was around May, June, July, August, that kind of area, which was going to be the time after Final Shape was originally supposed to come out. And due to my personal project that I'm working on, taking the sabbatical before the Final Shape is no longer possible. At the moment, the plan is to maybe take it during the final months of the year, but the final months of the year are usually the highest earning months of the year for content creators. So having no content at the end of the year is also kind of a bad idea, which means the earliest I could now do my sabbatical is January 2025, which is unfortunate because I had finally built up the courage to actually do it, and now I need to delay it or potentially not have it at all. There is simply too much uncertainty for me right now to be comfortable taking time away, which really sucks for me. Had these layoffs not happened and, you know, the future of my YouTube career not been put into jeopardy, I would take my break, I would come back to Destiny, we'd keep it rolling. That is no longer the case. I am confident in the Final Shape being a good expansion. Good at a minimum. I'm not confident in it completely blowing me away. We've heard that it got good, not great feedback internally, so Bungie is trying to beef it up before it drops in June. How confident am I in their ability to do such a thing with only 3 months extra time? Not too sure. 3 months in game dev world doesn't seem like a ton of time. Bungie leadership has given me very little confidence to actually do anything about the growing fatigue of the franchise. Regardless of who is to blame, that confidence is gone. It has been nearly completely eroded. You have a community with very little confidence in Bungie after the Final Shape. You have a community that thinks Destiny is done after the Final Shape. You have a community that is ready to jump ship the split second they see the final mission of the expansion. And you have a game that isn't bringing in any new players. So what do you do about that? Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.